Coming up on today's Locked On Cavs, here's how Darius Garland can be an all-star once again next season.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
That music you heard on the way in is from our friends at Astra Radio. I am Chris Manning. That is Evan Dammarell. We are the Locked On Cavs podcast, reminding you to check us out right now 3 days a week. We'll be back in 5 days here sooner rather than later. And thanks again to Jake Stevens for production. Today's show is all about Darius Garland. We're going to continue our series looking at all of these different aspects of the Cavs, who can get better, how these certain guys can get better. And with Darius, Evan, I want to start here. I think some of what makes him awesome as a player and so fun as a player is at times that he is very unselfish and is willing to not always shot hunt for himself. I kind of want him to shot hunt for himself like 5% more.
Yeah, he's unselfish to a fault sometimes, and it can be a little frustrating. I want to give a lot of credit to Carter Rodriguez because he put this bug in my brain, kind of like Baldur's Gate 3 many moons ago, where he's just like, I wish Darius had that selfish streak in him where he's just like, nah, I'm not going to look to get the rest of the teammates involved. I'm going to call the offense around me. We're going to run an ISO Garland play, and I'm just going to get up some shots because I think he is more than comfortable feeling out the defense, at least through his playmaking, maybe figuring out how the defense is playing the rest of the team and getting everyone else going to give him easier shot opportunities. And it's interesting to see what is the next growth step for him. And I'm firmly the stance where like the Cavs need Darius Garland to step up and become like the number one option on the team. And maybe Donovan Mitchell plays to Darius Garland's strengths or Evan Mobley doing the same as well too, versus Darius Garland playing to the strengths of Mobley, Mitchell, Allen, and instead just making himself the heliocentric piece of this offense, and everyone else kind of falls, I don't want to say falls in line, but just kind of figures out what their fit is around this Garland-centric offense, because if he's comfortable and he's cooking more often than not, and he has shown that he has the ability to cook on offense, like it's going to make life easier for everybody else if your arguably best player is the best player on the floor any given night.
Do you think there's a world where Darius could sustainably play more like he did the year before when he made the All-Star team and still kind of shift into a slightly different version of that, which is last year, like really defer more? But do you think it's reasonable to see him dial that scoring and kind of on-ballness a little bit more? Is that something you could see?
I could see it because if you look at the counting stats, they are remarkably similar scoring-wise and assist count-wise per game last season, and that's with adding Donovan Mitchell. I think I will always say I'm very surprised at how quickly Garland and Mitchell kind of figured out how to coexist with each other just on a basic level on offense, and they are continuing to grow and kind of figure that out. But I think now that you have an 82-game season plus the 5-game postseason run together, I think the next step for this marriage between Mitchell and Garland is going to be, okay, Darius, you clearly show that you're able to sustain the level of play by adding another primary ball handler who is going to be like the biggest offensive oven for us. How can you level up and be better? And I think about like that Ricky Rubio quote, like Rubio pushed a lot of his teammates to say like, okay, yeah, you were great last year. What can you do to be better? And it's multifaceted. We already talked about the scoring. We talked about him maybe being a little more selfish at times offensively, but like it's multifaceted. It's layered. And I wonder how the Cavs structure this. I wonder if they maybe run a little bit more of a vanilla offense and maybe some less of like one read actions to kind of get Garland more involved organically. Like there's a lot of ways that they can explore this, but yeah, I think it's certainly possible, but it's a two-way street. Is Garland willing to be a guy who maybe scores more? Is he going to look more to get his teammates more involved and become more of like a playmaking just asset for the Cavs, maybe play off of the strengths of his teammates? And also it's on the coaching staff. Like what can they do to make the offense flow a little bit more and maybe just play to the strengths of Garland and allow this already pretty harmonious marriage between him and Mitchell just continue to flourish and just play to the strengths of a young guard who is going to be entering his prime pretty soon.
I think it just, in all these situations, it's not always easy. And I think as we've seen in basketball over and over and over again, there is sometimes guys go into this hero ball mode. I mean, we just saw a ton of it at FIBA. Is one of the reasons I don't think the United States won, is because sometimes the offense really settled into this your turn, my turn kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I think there were times last year where Garland and Mobley had that. But I think both of Garland and Mitchell had that, But I think there's a thing with all of them, with these partnerships, where there is a balance of both of them needing to play on ball, but sacrificing for the other. And I think if I'm looking at how this could work and elevate in year 2, I do think there's probably some, as good as he is, I do think it would benefit Donovan Mitchell some to defer to Darius Garland. I really, really do believe at times that Donovan could be an off-ball threat. He can be a cutter. He can be a spacer. Darius can make these reads and get Donovan higher, honestly, more efficient shots at times than, not that Donovan can't make these, but that to me, you turn that dial in that way, I think the offense gets better, and then you have all the shooting around Garland and Mitchell when you add Strus and Niang and stuff, and I think that's a real recipe to elevate the offense in a meaningful way.
I agree, and I think the Cavs' offseason approach of that, prioritizing offense over defense, certainly makes it easier. But more than that, we saw it to probably its highest extreme, and this is after Donovan Mitchell has said ad nauseum at this point, no, this is Darius's team. Darius needs to be our leader. He needs to step up. He challenged him publicly, and I think again, it's a figuring out process and Garland's comfort level when it comes to just doing these kind of things. But I think you saw the most extreme version of it in game 2, where Mitchell really became just a secondary player to Garland and was kind of picking apart New York's defense, and Garland was taking advantage of the fact that maybe the Knicks were overcommitting on Mitchell at times to find that offensive rhythm early in the game and continue to stay hot to help the Cavs their only win in the playoffs last year. So I think that's an approach. I think you can take a lot of footage and samples and examples of that. You obviously don't want Mitchell completely deferring to a playmaker role, but you want him to, like you said, at times just let Garland do his thing and play off of him and just really figure it out. And then, like you said as well, get more efficient shot opportunities, get easier looks at the basket, maybe get easier 3-point opportunities, whether it's soft cuts or just streaks, or maybe if the Cavs run certain plays. You just get more open looks on the perimeter. And also, to your point, George Niang, Max Strus, even Ty Jerome, the Cavs clearly focused on 3-point shooting this offseason. And those are guys as well that can benefit. And also the defense overcommits on any of those. It makes Mitchell's life even easier, especially if just the head of the snake is biting the other opposing defense.
Look, and I will note that I don't think Mitchell is nearly the creator for others that Garland is, but if you were going to build a situation where he could get easier reads, it's going to look more like this, because you have 2 really good lob threats. You've added Strus, you've added Niang, you have Garland. You have guys that he can make pretty simple reads to if the things break down in a certain way, and I think there's a way to lean into that and for Cleveland's offense to really profit from it, and at the same time let Darius Garland, I think, profit more as an on-ball guy, and then we can see where he could go. All right, coming up, let's talk about him as a league creator at his apex. I'm going to throw some names at Evan, and he's going to have to tell me yay or nay if he would take Garland as a league creator over them at this point in time and going forward. Today's episode is brought to you by Jase Medical. You don't want to be underprepared. That's where the Jase case comes in. The Jase case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use. All it takes to get a Jase case to fill out a simple online form, and in some cases, jump on a quick call with one of their board-certified physicians. Get ongoing care from their physicians on any treatment-related questions. This is doctor-created, doctor-recommended. A customer, Frank, said, quote, as easy as 1, 2, 3 and just in time. I received the package the same day I got a sinus infection, and my doctor was out of town. No appointment for days. Thank goodness it arrived. Jase Medical is simple. You go online, you fill out a form, and then you get prescription life-saving medications right to your door. The Jase case gives you a peace of mind so you're not just hoping you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jase Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using our code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, first up, Evan. Darius Garland or Tyrese Halliburton?
Darius Garland. Just because I think I love Halliburton's game. I think he has the potential to be a stud for the Pacers, but I think he's also a product of being the only guy who can really create shots for everybody else on his team, and also just being like that heliocentric focus of a guard. But I would rather take Garland just because of age, experience, and also I think I just prefer Garland's shooting upside at the end of the day too. What about you?
I think just because he's a little bit bigger, I might go Halliburton, and it's not. Look, 40% on threes last year, 41% the year before, 40. Like, this guy can really shoot it. That's something he actually can do. He's 6'5", and I think that is an advantage. And they're close in age. Like, they're about a year apart. One's 2019 draft, one is the 2020 draft, the COVID draft. That was bizarre. I think it's really close. This kind of popped up to me because Matt Moore was tweeting about like different guys, and he's like, I love Garland, but I think Halliburton has the apex of like a super plus on-ball creator, and I don't think that's wrong. I also think Garland can get there. It's just harder because he's 6'1". If there's one knock on Garland, it's just the size. Like, that's really the only thing that makes you go, okay, like, what's the limit here? Just because he doesn't have some of the ability to see over defense at times. Okay, Darius Garland or LaMelo Ball?
Darius Garland, just because of health and availability. LaMelo Ball, just, again, bigger point guard. A lot of fun upside with him. The Hornets stink, so you have to like take his numbers with a grain of salt, but I do think he is a stud as a player. But the lack of availability from LaMelo Ball, at least, and who knows, maybe the Hornets were trying to stealth tank and they failed to get Wemby. But at the same time, like I would rather have Garland over Ball just because I don't know. Like I don't know how inflated those numbers are in such a bad team.
I would go Darius as well. I like LaMelo more after doing some prep for another thing, and he's 6'8", and that's like you can't teach that as someone who can see over the defenses. But I'm a little bit of a LaMelo skeptic. I think he can be a little bit careless. Some of that is, I think, situation. Some of that is trouble. He's not nearly as accurate at the rim as you would like. 54% last year. And I mean, limited games, 54 the year before, 53 the year before. For someone his size, I just expect that to be better. Garland, by comparison, is 57, 57, 57 the last 3 years. Those are not great numbers either. Those are average to below average each of those years. But like they're better than LaMelo, and LaMelo's 6 to 7 inches taller than Darius Garland. Like there's something there that I'm just like, I don't know exactly what's going on there, but it's kind of weirds me out a little bit.
Yeah, but also it's not similar in the aspect, like you look at LaMelo, you look at his brother Lonzo, who is just like a similar physicality wise, like in terms of like length and size and height, like things you can't teach. But Lonzo is like a lockdown defender, like one of the better perimeter defending guards in the league when healthy, of course. And you wonder, like, why can't LaMelo tap into that? Is it an effort thing? Is it an energy thing? Is he just more focused on offense? And like you mentioned, like when you get into the nitty gritty of the numbers, like LaMelo kind of makes you a little queasy on what he can be. And like, sure, Garland has his wrinkles and faults defensively too, but I don't think he would be as big of a liability as Ball. And again, it's maybe a different situation. And LaMelo might be different under JB Bickerstaff, of course, but it's just worth noting, like, LaMelo has the potential to be like a very good defensive guard, but he's just not. Like he's a liability on that end of the floor.
Yeah, he's good at the point of like his first action, then the screen comes and
crushed.
Yeah, just stops. And look, that happens in bad situations. I think like maybe that gets better there. Steve Clifford for a full season probably demands some accountability. That Charlotte defense was pretty statistically very good towards the end of the year. A lot to go on with LaMelo. All right, Darius Garland or an agency teammate of his, Tyrese Maxey. I don't think this. If this is, here's the thing. I mean, you're thinking about this, and I think are you having a harder time with this one than Garland and Halliburton? Because I think that's nuts. I think that's nuts. I think Halliburton. It's Halliburton, Garland, LaMelo, and then Maxey to me. I love Maxey. Maxey's the fourth guy, and that Maxey's not. This isn't close. You're nuts.
So the Tyrese Maxey thing is, I really like Tyrese Maxey. I really like Tyrese Maxey as a player. I think he's going to be fun. I think I'm intrigued to see when James Harden is inevitably shipped out of Philadelphia, what Tyrese Maxey looks like. Is he going to step up and be the player that he looks like as the third, maybe sometimes fourth option, and taking advantage of playing with Harden and Embiid, or is he going to be kind of similar to like what Malcolm Brogdon was when the Bucks were young, scrappy, and fun, and they had Giannis, they had Middleton, they had Brook Lopez kind of just like flourishing a little bit as Splash Mountain, and like Brogdon was just like the fourth, fifth guy in the starting lineup for Milwaukee, and he got really insanely good numbers on a super high efficiency. Then he ended up with the Pacers, and then he's kind of bounced around a little bit since then. So like, I'm curious to see what Maxey is. I would agree, like Garland is there, but like, I'm very curious to see what Tyrese Maxey is going to look like when James Harden is gone. And you just say, all right, Tyrese, we're going to let you cook and be the primary ball handler, but obviously Joel is the first option, but like, you're going to get so many more looks because James isn't here anymore.
Yeah, I think you're wild for this. I think it's Garland. It's not close.
I think it's Garland too, but it's just an interesting question because like, you're like, but what could Maxey be? And I don't know.
Yeah,
he's really good. He's so good though.
Yeah, but I think Halliburton's better than, like, Halliburton's, I think, significantly better than him as a creator for others. Like Maxey doesn't throw the ball over a lot, but he also doesn't create a ton of assists for others.
That's fair.
Halliburton generates like a ton for other guys on the floor, and he's bigger. And like Maxey is really fast. He's the fastest guy we've, I think, discussed on this list. But he's also, like Garland, like has a real height issue. He's 6'1". Like he's smaller than Darius, and Darius is not big. Like I'm taking, if I was going to rank them so far, and we have one more we're going to hit, I would go Darius. I would go Halliburton, very, very, very slightly ahead of Garland. Then I'm going LaMelo, and then Maxey's fourth. That's my four if I was going to rank those four.
Okay, I would go Garland with it being a toss-up between Maxey and Halliburton, just because I think I'm higher on Maxey than you are, and then LaMelo is not a distant fourth, but he's in fourth place. Give me your fifth guy. Let's rack my brain a little bit.
He's a little bit older, and this one's a little bit more like he had a great year last year, and I'm just curious about it. De'Aaron Fox.
De'Aaron Fox's development's interesting. I think the partnership between Halliburton and him was such a nice thing that the Kings are thanking the good Lord that Sabonis ended up being just like the stud for them, even though he already was a stud coming out of Indiana and Oklahoma City and everything. But I wonder if Fox could be a number one option. Like if you ask him to like to run the offense through him, or do you want to see like, okay, this is a Sabonis centric offense with Fox being the second fiddle, because like there are some shooting concerns. Like I think he's improved since he's come out of Kentucky. I think the playmaking stuff is there. He's blindingly quick. Like I think he's the fastest player on this list now that you've listed everybody out there.
Him or Maxey. Would like to watch them race, if I'm being honest.
God, the NBA should have contests like that. Like, just do a flat foot race for entertainment. So
never gonna happen.
No, it's just like LeBron never doing the dunk contest in his prime. But I would take Garland over him just because I think Garland has potential to be like the number one guy. Where clearly like Sacramento is interesting because like they have two clear star players in Fox and Sabonis, but like Sabonis is the best player for Sacramento, and I don't know if Fox would be the best player if you remove Sabonis from the equation, and Sacramento kind of sustains that level of play that they have.
Yeah. Fox, I think I would have him ahead of Maxey. I would have him right now. I think he's better than Ball. I think Ball's upside is probably higher because he's just younger. And I would take Garland over him as well. But like, there's so many good guards. You could have thrown Trae Young in this. You know, Ja's a little more complicated, but you could put Ja in there if you wanted to have a draft debate. There's a lot of guards, and I think I guess my point with this, Evan, is I think there's a lot of different ways that Darius Garland is going to look or could look like a lead creator, and I think it's going to look different than all these guys, and I'm curious to see how they all end up functioning in different ways. It's a real point of fascination to me of just like how this works. All right, coming up next, let's end.
Wait, yeah, I have a guard debate for you.
What?
Let's bring it back to our very beginning. Darius Garland or Colin Sexton?
Nope, not taking the bait. Coming up next, we're going to talk about Darius Garland off Ball. Coming up for that. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends at FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of Locked On. I mean, the FanDuel's a great app. They always have great options for you. And right now, they're gearing you up for the NFL season. You can get incredible offers from FanDuel, America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5, just $5, and get offers from FanDuel, and you get $200 in bonus bets. That's guaranteed. Again, $5, you get $200 in bonus bets. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket and from YouTube and YouTube TV. If you're out of your market of your favorite team, that's a great deal. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn and kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL, and also the official Sportsbook of Locked On. All right, so let's circle back a little bit to segment 1, Evan. Off-ball work for Darius Garland. It's not been a huge part of his repertoire, but I also kind of just think there's times where I feel like he could be this really slithery, annoying guy to track off ball. Yes, that would burn energy, and I think it would require some changes to how they run offense, but I think as Evan Mobley grows and all of this stuff, I think there's some real ways to run actions with Garland to make him more dynamic off ball, and I think it could help him get easier shots at times. I don't know what that would look like. He's not taken a ton of catch and shoot threes, 2.5 last year versus 3.4 in terms of pull-ups, both really good percentages, but I kind of would want to see the volume on that maybe get dialed up a little bit.
I would too. I think that's more of a product of Cleveland's offense at the end of the day. They're very one read. It's kind of vanilla. They are a defensive first team, but there's a lot of fun and creative ways you can pick and choose, mix and match, run some set plays from just other teams because every team is copying one another just on offense. But there's a lot of ways, like you said, there's not a lot of catch and shoot numbers. You don't know how comfortable he is doing that. But in order to unlock Garland, you got to get him feeling much more comfortable without the ball in his hands, and I just advocated for him in the first segment and also in the second segment in terms of comparing him to other point guards in the league, that the Cavs can kind of hit a next level when Garland has the ball in his hands more often than not, and he's the number one option for them in certain sets and scenarios. But you can still do the same thing, but letting him play off ball to Donovan Mitchell, or shoot even Evan Mobley if you want to get really weird with it. There's a lot of ways you can get creative with this and let Garland play, because you have a lot of bigs, you have bigger players like Mobley, Allen, Yang, even Damian Jones is a big body too. The Cavs have dudes to at least provide the screen work on the interior to allow smaller, faster players like Garland, Mitchell, even Strus, Jerome as well. There's a lot of different ways you can just mix and match, piece things together, and just accentuate and just kind of build this offense off of it to let Garland just get easier shot opportunities at the perimeter, or even at the rim too. And we talked about this a little bit, I joked with the Colin Sexton thing, but if Garland is able to handle physicality and without getting in foul trouble, or also just avoiding injury, if he's able to get to the free throw line more often than not, that's a huge thing for the Cavs too, because those are just free shots for him, and he's probably Cleveland's most reliable free throw shooter on the roster.
Yeah, I think him, look, let's say Evan Mobley becomes an offensive hub and gets touches at the elbow. And there's been some versions of this, they've run some of this before, so this wouldn't be an entirely new concept. But Darius Garland running through and getting a DHO, Darius Garland getting there, getting ready for the back pass. It's just waiting there for him to do that. And maybe there is a physicality question. This is one of those spots where if he was 6'5" like Halliburton, or 6'8" like LaMelo, okay, you could see, and maybe he could add more weight in a way that I don't necessarily know if he can or should. I think that could add, just he could take a little bit more bruising, draw more free throws, and do all that stuff, and diversify the shot profile. I also think just him, when the Cavs run double drag, you could use him as a screener with Mobley. If it's Mitchell and Garland, and if Allen's at the dunker spot, let's say, and you have Strus spacing off the other side, and maybe you want to use Strus as a shooter as well, and Garland in the opposite way. You could do it either way. Garland's giving Mitchell a read where it's, hey, you have Strus here, you have Allen at the dunker spot, Garland's going to pop as an easy valve for you for three, or Evan Mobley's going to roll and could dunk. It just creates really easy decisions for Mitchell to make his, to kind of aid him in some of what lacks as a playmaker in my mind. And I think for Garland, it's hey, do you want to have him pop for three and get open? Because the defense freaks out about a roller or Donovan Mitchell. I think he could just feast on those looks. And it would use him in just more inventive ways. He's never going to be Curry, and because no one's ever that. But you could steal some of that, and I think it can make guards like him a lot more effective on offense.
Well, to your point about Steph Curry or even Klay Thompson or the James Harden Rockets, the NBA is a 3-point centric league now, and the Cavs certainly improved last season. They certainly improved their moves this offseason, but like they need to really kind of add a lot more modern peppering to this kind of antiquated style of play. They play with 2 7-footers on the floor. And a way to do that, like you said, is like let him as in Garland feast off just being like maybe like the third read on an offensive play, just because like it's a pick and roll. Jared Allen and Donovan Mitchell is the ball handler, and like Mitchell could be the first option based on how the defense reacts to Allen rolling the rim, and then like Allen is the second read, but then you also have like an off-ball screen for like Mobley or Niang or somebody else, and Garland is able to get open in the corner or on the other side of the perimeter, and Mitchell at least has the playmaking vision to make that pass and that read. Like Garland could definitely play off of that, because the Cavs are a very scary team in terms of just all the options they have on offense, just because like defenses have a hard time defending it, but if you're so one note and vanilla about it, it's easier to prepare and settle in and just not really find a rhythm and flow. And the Cavs could get really creative, just adding those little wrinkles and just peppering things in to just make life. I keep saying make life easier, but like, yeah, literally make life easier for everybody on this team. So
that's going to be it for this episode of Locked On Cavs. I'm Chris Manning. That has been Evan Dammarell. Please subscribe on YouTube or on your podcast platform of choice if you haven't already. Thanks again to Jake Stevens for production. Back at you on Friday. We're going to talk about Evan Mobley and where he goes on offense specifically, but also how much better he can get on defense as we wrap up this week of shows. Talk to y'all then. Enjoy the rest of your day.